Flying Saucer Occupants. I picked this book up a couple years ago when I was flying home from Los Angeles. I picked this book for two reasons. Number one, it's a compact book, and number two, it's about flying saucers. The UFO phenomenon is a topic that I've been passionate about since I was a kid. I've always been fascinated by things in the sky, mysterious things that people can't explain. So this book was right up my alley. This book is essentially a series of eyewitness accounts, real life reports that people have made of things that they witnessed. What's interesting about this book is that it makes it clear right off the bat that it doesn't set to prove any of it is real. But what it does do is report that something is going on. It's a great book. If you're interested in UFO Phenomenon, this is a great book for you to just look at. It has amazing stories, which I can make a whole video in and of itself. The reason why I bring up this book is because it's relevant to today, 2023. If you're not familiar with what's been going on as of recent in major news outlets, there has been a lot of noise made on UFOs and UAPs, the phenomenon as a whole. But what is really going on? What is with all these recent disclosures that have been coming out? In this video, I'm going to take a deep dive into the history of UFOs, where the topic is headed, and even the future of UFO reporting. There has been a lot of initiatives taken by the US government as of recent to take a closer look at what is going on, to try to get to the bottom of what credible witnesses are seeing in the skies. This is a very interesting story, and as with any story, we start at the beginning.
The modern-day interpretation of UFOs and aliens are credited to a couple of key reports. That's right, everything you think you know about aliens, their big heads, black almond eyes, and their spacecraft, comes from a handful of sources that went viral at the time. This UFO mania will go on to shape Western pop culture as we know it. Several movies, TV shows, music, and even fashion has been influenced by little green men and their metallic flying discs. A multi-billion-dollar industry was propped up on this concept.
Most of us have heard the term flying saucers. Well, in 1947, a civilian pilot named Kenneth Arnold reported seeing a group of aircraft which appeared to be bat-like, moving in formation, flying at high speeds. He said that they were moving in a way that is very similar to if you skip rocks over water. Well, he told his story to a local newspaper, and they were struggling for a title for this report, and someone came up with the term flying saucers. Well, the term stuck, and following these headlines, reports of flying saucers became an almost daily occurrence. Interestingly enough, 1947 was also the same year that the Roswell incident occurred. Yeah, that Roswell. It was definitely a busy year for the UFO phenomenon. And what about these little green men with their big heads and black almond-shaped eyes abducting people in the middle of the night? Where did that come from? The modern day description of aliens as we know them can be pinpointed down to the year 1961. This was the year that the first alien abduction account was reported by Barney and Benny Hill. Of course, this was after undergoing hypnosis. It involved recovering repressed memories, which is kind of a pseudoscience and is very questionable at its core. Also, their reports became more and more elaborate as the years went by. They wrote books about their experience, and there was some incentive to sell their story. Nevertheless, this case went viral. It was practically covered by every news station at the time, and if you're not familiar with TV back in the 60s, there wasn't much to watch. So this story was broadcasted in pretty much every American living room at the time that had a TV station. Their description of the beings that abducted them had big heads and dark almond-shaped eyes. Does that sound familiar? And you know what's also interesting? Prior to the Barney Hill case, aliens in movies tended to be a little bit more alien-like. They had tentacles, they were slimy, grotesque-looking creatures. But after the viral story of their abduction, aliens in movies and comic books were then depicted as being more humanoid-like and more along the lines of the descriptions provided by Benny and Barney Hill. And as with the flying saucer cases, alien abduction reports were through the roof. Pretty much everyone had some sort of experience with an alien abduction or saw something that was similar to what was described by the Hill case. Coincidence?
No way. Not this time. We created it. Not this time. No, not this time. It's totally made up.
During this time period, there was an all-out UFO mania. They were everywhere. Movies were being made, books were being written. And it might seem kind of fantastical, but not everyone saw this as just an over-imagination by the American people. Remember 1947? This was also the same year that the United States Air Force began to record and investigate UFO reports with Project Sign. This was the first known instance of US government interest in UFO. And I say known because we don't know what we don't know. And this wouldn't be the only project that was propped up by the United States Air Force to investigate UFOs. Most notable is Project Blue Book, which began in 1947 and ran all the way through 1969. The project was abandoned after the United States Air Force determined that there was no conclusive evidence found after almost 1,000 reports being investigated. Following the termination of Project Blue Book, the United States government was kind of silent on the matter. And throughout this entire period, there were murmurs from people on the inside that the subject was never truly let go by the government and that there were secret programs happening in the background. These were just rumors. That is until 2017. This next part of the video, I have to preface by saying that this isn't some kind of crazy conspiracy, ancient aliens theory. This is actual declassified evidence confirmed by the United States government. And this is where the story really takes off from your grandpa's crazy stories to the real world.
In 2017, the New York Times dropped a bombshell article that exposed a mysterious Pentagon UFO program involving black money. Prior to the New York Times article, this program was virtually unknown by the public and mainstream media. However, there were rumors of such a program in existence. The article revealed that the Pentagon had allotted $22 million towards the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, or ATIP, which was launched for the purpose of investigating UFO reports. The black money part refers to the lack of documentation on how the funding was used by the program. There were several key players listed within the article, but the most intriguing part were two then leaked videos of supposed UFOs, or how the article referred to them, UAPs, Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon. Titled The Nimitz Tic Tac and the Gimbal videos, these clips went viral and spawned several other witnesses, researchers, and high-level government officials to come forward with even more claims and evidence in the next coming years. These videos were unlike all the previous shaky cam videos we've seen before because they came directly from some of the world's most advanced fighter jets. In addition to being relatively clear, they also included data and audio that could be reviewed. These videos were then officially declassified by the Pentagon, adding even more fuel to the fire.
In the coming months, key witnesses and whistleblowers made themselves public. Enter Lou Elizondo and Commander David Fravor. For the first time since perhaps Roswell, there were two credible witnesses who came forward. Lou, having first-hand accounts with ATIP, and Commander David Fravor actually being present during the Nimitz Tic Tac encounter. There's more information that came out from these two, and this basically opened the floodgates. There were several other more witnesses that came forward because of Lou Elizondo and Commander David Fravor. All of these people will go on to be featured in several hundred interviews, podcasts, articles, you name it. The next couple of years were pretty quiet. People were too busy with Tiger King to care about anything else.
I am never going to financially recover from this.
But in 2021, the US intelligence agency declassified reports on what they knew about UAPs or UFOs thanks to the COVID-19 spending relief bill. Essentially, what they said is, we know that there's something out there, but we don't know what it is. And that's pretty much the gist of it. In 2022, Congress held the first official nonpartisan UFO hearing in over 50 years. The last time this happened was in the 70s, and it was to address the termination of Project Blue Book. It was very apparent that Congress was taking this topic very seriously, at least enough to hear what people had to present. What do you have to bring to the table? Congress heard testimony from key witnesses as well as a few congressmen. The hearing took place in two parts, a public hearing and a private hearing. In the public hearing, they covered a lot of the stuff that was already released to the public. A few congressmen made pleads to have better record-keeping methods and easier ways to report UFOs and UAPs. A few other people called for the removal of the stigma around UFOs. In early to mid 2023, there were rumors about a witness with some extraordinary claims. In June of the same year, an interview was released by News Nation, and this was kind of a surprise to everyone. Enter the whistleblower, David Grush.
Bombshell claims from a military whistleblower. UFO wreckage recovered by the U.S. kept classified by a secret government program for decades.
Now, David Grush is as a credible witness as they get. Not only has he been vouched by other high-ranking military officials, he is a decorated U.S. Air Force major and intelligence officer in his own right. In this interview, Grush revealed a top-secret UFO retrieval program. This program is responsible for actually getting a hold of crashed alien spacecraft. And the program is responsible for retrieving several of these spacecraft, along with, now get this, non-human biologics.
Do we have bodies? Do we have species of
Well,
non-human?
naturally, when you recover something that's either landed or crashed, sometimes you encounter dead pilots. And believe it or not, as fantastical as that sounds, it's true.
He also stated that the government is actively responsible for the cover-up of these spacecraft. Now, Grush seems to be sincere. I don't believe that he stands to gain much from his claims, but there are a few issues with his statements. First and foremost, his source of the claims are from third parties. It's essentially a friend of a friend told me, which is considered hearsay in legal courts, and it usually doesn't hold up. Also, Grush himself has claimed that he's never physically seen spacecraft or alien bodies himself. Again, he just said that someone told him that they witnessed, and that is his source of the claims. But I think the most glaring issue comes down to logistics. Grush claimed that some of these spacecraft are big, like football stadium big. The logistics involved in concealing something that large is inconceivable. It requires a lot of manpower, a lot of equipment. To keep that under wraps will be humanly impossible. People love to talk, and something would have leaked prior to Grush coming out. And this is the same argument I have for people who deny the moon landing. The moon landing required several thousands of people participating in this big lie. For you to logistically keep everyone's mouth shut is impossible. There would have been a leak somewhere. And in the same vein, something would have leaked that they buried a football stadium sized aircraft. And as crazy as this story is already, leave it to Mexico to take it to the next level. In 2023, Mexico held a public hearing in which not one, but two alleged alien bodies or corpses were presented by Mexican journalist Jamie Maussan. Jamie is quite the character. He's had a long career in ufology and has a bit of a reputation in Mexico for being kind of a nutcase. And for some reason, he has an obsession for being the guy to release alien corpses onto the rest of the world. In fact, in 2015, he held an event where he unveiled a supposed alien corpse, which was later revealed to be a mummified human child. Then in 2016, he claimed to have the corpses of two creatures dubbed the Metapec creature and the demon fairy. He claimed that these were alien bodies. And if the story sounds familiar, it's because he's been trying to push this story for a long time. This science project from Wish turned out to be a skinned monkey and bat remains that were just glued together haphazardly. Then in 2017, he revealed for the first time the now infamous alien corpses and claimed that they were found near the Nazca lines in Peru by looters. Yeah, he doesn't have the best track record. And we're not even going to talk about his 2020 venture where he almost got arrested for trying to shill an all-natural cure that turned out to be literal snake oil. Yeah, this guy and his ghetto ET goon mummies put a stain on the topic as a whole, but it didn't set back any future plans to research UFOs and UAPs by legitimate establishments. Which brings me to my next point. The consensus tends to be that there is something spooky happening in the sky. This past September, NASA released a roadmap on the future of UFO research. They created a team of 16 experts that specialize in diverse areas related to the phenomenon. This team is setting out to review observations, data, and other information related to the topic, which come from both military personnel and private citizens. I guess the takeaway from all of this is that for the first time in US history, this topic is being taken seriously, not only by the government, but also by scientific establishments. This would have been unthinkable a few decades ago. And I think the stigma of this topic is slowly being lifted away. And the future for this topic looks bright. I think we're gonna get to the bottom eventually of what all this is, whether it's aliens or otherwise. Overall, this topic is a roller coaster. There's new stuff being revealed every other month. I don't know what's gonna happen a month from now, but there's certainly a common theme amongst this topic, and I think it brings people together. And I think that's something we can use, especially these days where there's so much darkness in the world. I think that we all need something mysterious to look forward to, if that makes any sense. Something that brings wonder, something that makes us question our reality that surrounds us. And I think this topic is perfect for that purpose. So whether or not any of this is true, it gives us something to do and something to look forward to in this dark, messy planet we call Earth. Or maybe it's just balloons. See you in the next one.